Hello everybody, Hellcracks here, and welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 416. Yes, today we're going to be talking about the clan mech, the Stalking Spider. Stalking Spider. What used to be a tarantula until Clan Cloud Viper got their hands on it and go, what can we do with this thing? Let's double the tonnage. Brilliant! Okay. The Stalking Spider is a 585 moving 50-ton mech with mask. So it does have a burst of speed out to 10, and it does have some mobility for a quad mech. It's like, you don't see quad mechs very often in games, but when you do, they're kind of interesting to play. You can lose a leg and still keep on ticking. They're very stable. So it's like when a mech loses a leg, it's like plunk, But with a quad mech, losing a leg isn't a very big detrimental effect. You lose the +2 to your stability check for making a pilot skill check, which means that most of the time, if you got let's say a 4 pilot in there for a clan guy, it's like, you don't fail until you lose that leg, and then you're just a normal mech. But that's one of the nice things about quad mechs. Now, the Stalking Spider, like I said, is a 585 with mask. It has a standard engine on board. It does not come with endo steel, but it does have ferrofibrous armor, which is 8 tons of ferrofibrous for 153 points, which is not bad. About the same amount of armor you're going to find like on a 55, like a Wolverine, Shadowhawk, that class. So it's not that bad. You're roughly, if you added 1 more ton of armor to it with ferrofibrous, you'd be, I think, just short of max. So it has potential. Now, weapon systems. Oh, it has 11 double heat sinks. Okay, we got that. We have 2 medium pulse lasers in the left torso. We got 2 SRM4s in the left torso with a ton of ammo, which I wish they had a second. Actually, is one of the few times I say, hey, I wish I had 2, because if you got 2 SRMs, I'd like to have, they're standard SRM4s, so I'd rather, it's like, hey, if you had 2 tons, I can throw Infernals on board and cook things if I want to. All right. Hey, we play Pyrotechnica when we play our games. If you ever watch any of the battle reports, a lot of times you see fire everywhere. Then, the main weapon on board is an ERPPC in the right torso, so on the other side. Now, this kind of reminds me of the Scorpion, in a way, with the big gun. Then we have mask in the right torso, which 2 tons go there, and then we have our jump jets. 1 in each leg, and then 1 in the center torso. All right, so you got your 5. Make it that it can maneuver pretty decently. So a 585, not that bad, not super great. It's like most clan mechs I'd rather see as at least a 6'9", but 5'8" as a second line mech. It's supposedly being manufactured by the Cloud Cobras. So, in some ways, is it a second line mech? It's hard to say. Because I can see this being a front liner, because the firepower is not that bad. When you really look at it, you got 2 medium pulse lasers, 2 SRM4s, and the ERPPC, all wrapped up in 2,236 battle value. A little spendy, but you can run around the edges and stuff for a period of time with that ERPPC, and you're banging away, knocking off 15-point blocks. Now, as a 585 jumper, would it have been better to give it a large pulse laser? You're only losing 5 damage and 3 range, but if you're jumping a lot, Would it have been better to have the PP over the PPC? That's a good question. What's your thoughts? Put that down below. Because I really think a large pulse laser would have been pretty decent. Go with the two medium pulse lasers. So yeah, you're looking at 18 heat, and if you jump 5, which why not, you're looking at 23. So you can do that for 4 turns without having any issues about heat. So that would have been an interesting thing. But otherwise, with the large PPC, with the ER-PPC there, with a big gun, you could fire that and jump. That's 20. So you got a few extra left over, which it's one of those things where you go, are you going to fire anything else? Probably. Well, you could fire like a medium pulse laser or an SRM or something. I'd probably just go the medium pulse laser, fire that, and you'd go up slightly on the heat scale. But now if you run, that's another story. So you're looking at, if you're running, you're running around with 20 heat that you can play with. So that's not a big deal when you think about it, because you could fire the 2 medium pulse lasers, the 2 SRMs, not fire the PPC, and you're running cool. So that's one of those things where you look at it and go, you can get a 3 mod, really, if you run your maximum 7+, and if you jump 5, you're going to have a 3+. So that's pretty much how you're going to look at it for your modifiers when it comes to being shot at. Now, when this mech does get in closer, like I said, I'd be jumping over, and depending on the situation, your damage output would probably be better if you're firing the shorter range weapons if you get in the range. But otherwise, I'm going to be using that ER-PPC as much as possible just to do some hard-hitting blocks of damage when you're running around with the rest of your star. So, that's probably going to be one of the first mechs that fires, take off some armor. And if you got some crit hunters, that's obviously going to be your guys that are going to be firing last in the order. So that's kind of like how I envision using this guy. Because to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a Stalking Spider on the table. I don't even have one myself. Now I'm looking at it going, maybe I should rethink that. So maybe in the future I might pick one up, unless I got one in one of the Kickstarters or something. I don't remember seeing one. So that's one thing I have to think about. Now, there's a few other designs with this mech. Let me bring it up here on the sheet. No sheet. All right, so we talked about the Prime version. All right, that's at 2232 battle value. Interesting. A little bit different between the book. Okay, then we have the Stalking Spider number 2. All right, now this is interesting. Comes in at 2056 battle value. You have a heavy large laser instead of a PPC. Okay, that's a little bit more damage, less range. You have an active probe on board. You got clan tag. Okay. You have 2 medium pulse lasers. That stays there like you used to. And then you have a targeting computer. So basically you took the 3 tons you had from the 2 SRM4s, and you went into an active probe and tag, and looks like a targeting computer. So, and let's see, how many heat sinks does this thing have? 12. So it's got one more heat sink. Armor, let's see, torsos are 15. So it looks like the armor value is the same. So a little bit less battle value, and you have a hard-hitting, heavy, large laser with a targeting computer, which will offset your heavy issue that comes with that using one of those. And you lost basically 8 range. So the longest range weapon systems you have are 15, which is your heavy, large laser. And then your backup is your 2 pulse lasers. Now, the 2, you got the 16 heat, that, or is it 18? Yeah, 18. So, when you look at it, with the heavy large laser, that's soaking up a lot of your potential. So if you run, it leaves you 4 that you can play with. You can fire a large or medium pulse laser. You can fire the second one, and then you're at 4 heat scale, and then you're looking at not firing something the next turn. So you're back to 1 medium pulse laser, or not firing them at all, and then cooling off. Because when you're a 5.85 mech, yeah, you don't really want to heat that thing up, because as soon as you start dropping down to a 4.65, and then you've got to rely on your jump jets to keep your modifier up, and then you're obviously decreasing the amount of damage output you can do, which, you know, it's just one thing or the other. So you're basically relying on that heavy large laser potentially trying to hit, with the minuses of being jumper. So there's that. So one nice thing though with this one is that the 2 medium pulse lasers, if you just rely on that one and not fire the heavy large to cool off, you get them, heck, that's a -3 to hit. So man, that's pretty decent there, with, you know, when you combine that with a target computer. And if you got a 3 pilot, you know, obviously your battle value will go up because you got a better pilot on board. But yeah, it's like you're probably offsetting your movement modifier and some of theirs. So you're probably going to be hitting pretty hard with the 2 pulse lasers. So that's one nice thing about this mech. I do like as part of the design. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of heavy lasers. If you had gone with just imagine this mech with a large pulse laser instead of the heavy large laser, that would have been an interesting little design when you think about it. Even though, you know, that's 2 tons more for the large pulse laser versus the heavy large laser. So there's that issue. So you would have to take off the tag and the active probe to make up for the, you know, putting on the heavy or large pulse laser. So there's that. Or look at pulling off some heat sinks, one or the other. The active probe is one of those things where it's more scenario driven a lot of times, trying to find hidden stuff like that. You might have been better off running around with the ECM instead of the active probe, because ECM helps, especially if fighting against Inner Sphere that has a lot of C3 networks, especially if you're fighting House Karita that runs, by this time, has a lot of C3 networks running around. And if anybody has Artemis, you know, that would help shut that down too. So it's one thing or the other. And I find that in most games, the ECM is more useful than an active probe. You know, so which one would you rather have? Me personally, I'm always lean towards the ECM. So there's that. Now, the next version, there's another one, the Stalking Spider number 3. I don't think there's a, nope, no 4. This one has a target computer in the head. Got 2 heavy small lasers. Once we're going back to the heavy smalls, range 3, 6 damage. And it's got some decent damage output. But you do have the minuses with those, but it's offset by your target computer, so it's one thing or the other. You do have an SRM-6 on board. Let's see, that's what, 1.5 tons, 2.5 tons wrapped up in that. So, and then you have 2 medium pulse lasers, and this comes in at 1,643 battle value. When your longest range weapon system is 12, this is something that you want a closed down type of battlefield, which means cityscape or something of that nature, where you want to be keeping the damage away from you as much as possible. It does look like it's heavier armed, You do have 11 heat sinks, doubles, so that stays the same. So you look at it and go, okay. This is more of a mission specific, trying to stay hidden away until you can pounce on somebody and do a little bit of damage. And actually the damage output of this thing is not overly great, to be honest. And you're left really with 2 medium pulse lasers. You got the 2 small, but that range is 3. You got the SRM that goes out to 9. So you're roughly stuck trying to look at individuals, hitting them out a little closer, getting in their face kind of deal. So there's that. But it comes in, you know, it's a little cheaper. Now, let me look at the build sheets here, if I can had anyone that I've done before. Okay, here one we did was has an ER PPC, 2 medium pulse laser, 2 SRM4s, and an ER medium laser, and I think, oh yeah, this one put it, we played around with putting Indo on it, and up the armor to 182, so it has 9.5 tons of armor on board. So, with a 1.5 tons more, beefed it up a bit, so yeah. And let me see if there's anything else in here in the mix. I don't think there is. Oh, we got one, we put a streak on board. Got rid of that, 2 SRM4s, and replaced it with a streak 6 instead. Well, that's not a bad idea. And let's see, this one has ERPPC, 2 streak 6s, 2 medium pulse lasers. Oh, it put an XL engine on board. Yeah, and Indo steel. Now that's something we played around with, looking at potentially down the road, if we ever got one of the models. Yeah, interesting. So, overall, not a bad design. It's like I said, it's one of those mechs that you really want to kind of shepherd it. It's in the standard version. I might have swapped out the ERPPC for a large pulse laser just because I like large pulse lasers instead. If I had a choice between the ERPPC and a large pulse laser, I'm probably taking the large pulse laser. So, in the long run, the amount of damage that you can do with the large versus the ERPPC, hitting is the main thing. Is that anything that you can do to shift the scale in your favor slightly, could be the difference of 1 or 2 pips, is the difference between hitting or not. The number of times that the only thing it ever hits is the pulse lasers, and everything else just kind of whiffs. Especially if you're looking at longer ranges. So that'd be one thing that I would probably change on this mech. Would go with a large pulse laser instead. Yeah, you're losing a little bit of range, but the capability of hitting is greatly increased. And maybe swap out, figure out a way of maybe dropping a heat sink and giving it another ton of ammo for the SRM4s and give it 1 ton standard, 1 ton of Inferno, because hitting a vehicle or infantry or something like that, it becomes your anti-infantry, anti-vehicle system. Or if you see somebody that's running hot, hey, have a little bit extra more heat. You know, you hit them with the Inferno and bump them up. So now they're rolling on to say, oh, okay, shutdowns and ammo explosions. Let me tell you, it can work. You know, in the past, I've taken out like a 100-ton assault mech with just Inferno alone. You hit it and boom, gone. That was the only thing it hit, but it kicked it up enough that ammo goes off and blows it to bits. Killing the pilot type of thing. Yeah, it makes them really happy though. All right, so that's pretty much it when it comes to the Stalking Spider. Not a bad mech, kind of useful. I can see using it on the battlefield. So, all right, so enjoy. Like and subscribe, share it to friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Battletech out.